Everyone, welcome. You're very welcome. Hello? Okay. You say what? Uh, Please mute your microphone. Can you please mute your microphone so that I don't start muting everybody? We welcome everyone. 10 o'clock, and we expect to start in 15 minutes' time. Good morning and welcome. Good morning and welcome. Adesoji, Kasim, Janet, Austin, Florence, Antiene, Owolabi.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Morning, welcome. Theophilus, my good friend, welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, welcome, Theo. You're always there for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll just give a few more minutes and then we can start. We welcome everyone to this meeting. We are waiting for the office of the Deputy Senate President, AKES, and representative of the EU ambassador or the ambassador himself. Once they log in, we will start the meeting. But then I give ourselves at about another 11 minutes and we will start. Please mute yourself when you come in so that you don't disturb others. And please try and use your name so that we can capture your attention. Everyone who is on this call, your data funds will be refunded. The cost of your data will be refunded. So, but we'd like to have your name. Those of you who are using, everyone is doing well right now. But those of you who are using phones and you did not identify your name, it will be difficult to capture your attendance. I haven't seen Kehinde, my colleague. Vincent, can you contact Kehinde to use of sign language interpretation?
Hello.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Jacob, I just muted you. It's Kehinde. Kehinde is not here.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, okay, Kehinde. All right, Kehinde, you
Hello,
need to
sir.
sign.
I'm here.
Kehinde, you need to sign.
Yes, sir. Sir, he said.
I said you need to sign.
Hello,
Sign
sir.
language. Sign language.
All right, sir. Okay. All right.
Once again, good morning. We're waiting for the office of the Deputy Senate President, either in person or he will be represented. We are waiting for representative of the EU. We're waiting for representative of AKES, most probably INEC. But we will start. I'd like to thank all the drafting team members. I haven't seen a few of them this morning, but I'd like to thank them in advance for a job well done. Please mute your microphone. unless you are beckoned to speak. Uh, your microphone should remain on silent. Those of you who wants to use your video, you're free to use your video. Um, there's this impression that once our videos are on, once our videos are on, it sort of hinders connectivity. So I think maybe what we'll do, except we're ready for photograph, what we'll do is that if you can switch off your video, every one of you, unless when you're speaking, then you can put on your video. Once again, we want to thank you for being part of this epoch making. Bello Adams, you're welcome. We want to thank all of you for being part of this. Um, you have been great advocates of the community, and we recognize that immensely. Uh, Antiene, good morning. Okay, I'm trying to let me call the office of the Deputy Senate President. I know that the likes of AKES, they are in Ondo, and connectivity can be a huge issue.
Hello, Jim.
My mentor, sir.
Morning.
Yes, sir. We are waiting. Can you mute your microphone, please? microphone. Hello. Hello, can you mute your microphone? Okay, we okay. Good morning, everyone. At this point in time, we will start the meeting, and hopefully, when the representative or the DSP or the representative comes in, he will be duly recognized. I want to thank everyone for coming even at short notice, especially our partners, AKES. The two top officers of AKES are on this call this morning. Honorable Hamza, my friend, and Wilson Yahaya Isaka. Every one of you, I want to really and truly appreciate your partnership and to welcome you. The community of persons with disability. I see any one of the board members of the of Jonapit is also on call with us, and leaders of the organization also, many of you are. I want to thank you for coming. Please, for those of you who, if you come into the meeting, mute your microphone, and preferably, those of you who are joining, you can also put up your video, except when you are speaking. So with that said, I want to welcome every one of you to this meeting. I don't know who I will call that is led to pray um, for the beginning of this meeting. We will take Christian prayer first, and then we'll take um, um, Muslim prayer in the closing. All right, so let me see, anyone that my site can help me identify to pray for us this evening. I like to I like to also, I like to also recognize Barrister Theophilus. Uh, Barrister Theophilus is of DRF, sorry, uh, Disability Right Funds. They fund one of the projects, and I'd like to welcome you. So let me give the honor of opening prayer to Theophilus. Theophilus, Barrister Theophilus of Disability Right Funds, if you're here, please start the with an opening prayer, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We are grateful to you for making it possible for every one of us to connect on this call. Father, we are gathered to deliberate. We are gathered to validate a memorandum for elections that will ensure free and inclusive participation of persons with disabilities. Give us the wisdom and the grace to make meaningful inputs that will benefit the entire community. Bless this meeting and make it very fruitful, that it shall have impact that will benefit every one of us. Thank you, Lord, for hearing us. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Theo, thank you. I have seen another dimension of you this morning, that you are a pastor in your right. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Once again, I'd like to welcome members of the community. I know that many of you are struggling with connectivity, but we are glad that those of you who have made it, and those of you who are trying to connect will eventually connect. With that said, I want to just briefly mention the essence of our gathering here this morning, which is to validate the document that a select team of lawyers, including persons with disability who are in the profession, have worked on. I want to thank them in advance for the wonderful task that they took on, and where they are at this time. This document have been widely circulated, and I'm sure that many of us have read. Okay, I'm sure that many of us have read this document through and through. I really want to thank God for all of the effort that have been put in. As I was speaking, the United Nations chair on CRPD, Barrister Dan Lamy, logged in at the appropriate time within the goodwill message. Unfortunately, I think we missed uh, typographically, including the him, but he will then be asked to address this gathering. And so the exercise is almost completed. I said almost completed because you have not validated it. I think at the end of today, we can all beat our chest to say that our memorandum is ready to be transmitted to the office of the Deputy Senate President. You know, it's been thoroughly researched, thoroughly presented, and I believe that it will represent the views of the entire community. The essence of this critically is to present one common front that we will say, that can be said that it's the view of the entire community of persons with disability, so that we can mainstream our views into the ongoing electoral reform bill process. Let me emphasize that prior to this exercise, the current amendment process was not inclusive of persons with disability um, session, section, sorry. And when we spotted that gap, members of the leadership community of persons moved quickly and swiftly to ensure that we were included in the process. I want to thank our sponsor, ECES, the Electoral Center, European Center for Electoral Support in Nigeria. I want to thank our main sponsor, the European Union, all the CSOs who worked on this document, and most importantly, the members, the team members of the persons with disability community. Those who worked on the document, the legal draftmen, will eventually present the document and we can move from there. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for coming to participate. Please, as much as possible, let's have a robust discussion. This is the time for you to bring in whatever input you have made on your own so that we can have one holistic, inclusive document that will be transmitted. Remember, they said that team, the word team means together, everyone achieve more. Together, everyone achieve more. With that said, I'd like to thank you once more for listening to me. And at this time, I don't know whether the president of JONAPID is on call. I know that one of the board members, Antiene, is on call. I don't think that the chairman of the board is on call, but my eyes will fail me to identify if they are. But then, in so doing, one woman that I know that have passionately followed this process is Antiene De, and I would like to give her the floor to present a 60-second goodwill message So, Antiene, you can please on your video, unmute yourself and make your presentation. 60 seconds, 1 minute. Antiene? Do we have her? Okay, I would also like to inform you that the chair of the drafting committee, Professor Sam Amadi, is on this call with us. We want to make this meeting as brief as possible because I know that a lot of people are busy and we're mindful of our Muslim brothers who will go for mosque. So, Antiene, if you're here,
she's here.
okay. Antiene, can you unmute yourself? Antiene, I'm trying to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? Okay. Well,
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Good morning.
good morning. We wanted you on behalf of Jonapit to say something. You have passionately followed this process and you have the floor to make an intervention for just a minute. Goodwill message.
Okay, thank you very much. I was excited when I saw the invitation for three reasons. One, that you are the one leading this process. Secondly, that the office of the Deputy Senate President is very instructive. It's collaborating with us. Then, above all, I'm so grateful that peace has returned to Jonathan. And for you in particular, you've been very instrumental to what we have seen today. And leading this issue of inclusion is very important. It's quite unfortunate that all marginalized groups have to fight for themselves. I'm particularly happy and have confidence in this process because the highest level of political commitment from a pillar of democracy or the pillar of democracy is involved in this. So for me, it's like everything is falling in place. So it's for us to be more united, to also give ourselves timeline to achieve all we have set out to achieve. It is possible. We don't need to stress. We don't need to spend so much time doing that because it's like my son would say, it's a debt that promise is a debt. There have been promises at different levels. So let us agree quickly how can we move fast all the acts, all the demand that how do we make it? And I'm available.
Sorry, ma. Mr. Ugochukwu Dick, please can you mute yourself?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, not you, Antiene. Just round up. Somebody was trying to interject you, so I wanted to put the question.
For the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Once more, if you're coming onto this call, and please mute yourself, except you're the one speaking. Mute yourself so that we don't distract the meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Antiene, for that wonderful, heartwarming endorsement and the fact that you have followed this process assiduously to this point in time. Once more, please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. mute yourself. Sodo Toyem, can you mute your microphone? Mute yourself. So we're going to run quickly. I'm sure many of you have the program. At this point in time, we are going to invite, let me invite Dan Lami Bashiro, Barrister Dan Lami, to please unmute yourself, Barrister Dan Lami, and just give us a 60-second goodwill message.
Yeah, good morning all. Thank you for inviting me, and I think the process that has been put in place is a welcome process, because the issues of political participation and public life for persons with disabilities is a fundamental issue of human rights, and persons with disabilities, like every other person, must be involved in that process. So, but to do that, we have to ensure that the Electoral Act provides the enabling environment for all persons with disabilities to participate, which is what I believe this new reform bill is going to be doing for all of us. So I thank the people who have put this together, and I thank the Office of the Senate President for considering it, considering persons with disabilities worthy to participate and make their input, because nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for being a pillar of support. I must say that you have played a very enviable role, even in the drafting. We will move quickly to ECES. ECES is one of our funding partners. We would give the floor. I think I would be a bit biased. We'll give the floor to Hamza, and then his deputy, Wilson, will also say something before we move, if we have the representative of the EU, and then the representative of the Senate President. I think Wilson.
Yes,
Wilson.
Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Hamza.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry because we've been struggling this morning to have a decent connection. So I hope it will work. But thank you for having us with you today. So dear Jake, dear Deputy Senate President, and distinguished representatives and members of the PWD civil society community, on behalf of ECES, I'm very pleased to be with you this morning with my colleagues.
Okay, I do know that Hamza and his colleagues are all in Ondo, and they are really struggling with internet connection.
Indeed, Manji Wilson is already. ECES is the European Center. Can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. Yes, indeed, we are in Akure for the election tomorrow. So I was just presenting quickly ECES for those of you who don't know our organization. We are a European based organization specialized in delivering technical assistance to election management bodies. And we are here in Nigeria since 2017 as part of the European Union support to democratic governance here in Nigeria. And we are in charge of component one of the project, which aims at supporting INEC. So we are very proud to be partners of this very important activity today, because Of course, we all know how inclusivity is key and important in terms of rights, how it is essential to ensure that PWDs can exercise their rights, access all aspects of life in society, and at the end of the day, improve their lives as human beings. This is all what is about, actually. So it's obviously very important, especially 20 million people are concerned. So it's only when the system opens itself, it's only when the system makes provisions to ensure that all citizens can make their voices heard, only then the system can be considered as being inclusive. But no system, no organization, no group, no human group makes these structural changes without being, let's say, pressured. So here, with the reform of the Electoral Act, you have the opportunity to influence the discussion on the organization of the system itself, because it's, of course, the cornerstone of the whole system. The electoral system is the cornerstone of the functioning of societies and democratic societies. So this is a unique opportunity, and this is why your work is so important, of course. Earlier in March this year, ECES supported the INEC to convene a joint retreat with members of the National Assembly committees on INEC and electoral matters. And we are happy to see that the recommendations from that very important retreat constitute the crux of the principal bill that's being considered in the National Assembly and led by the Deputy Senate President, who chairs the Committee on Electoral Reforms. It's indeed heartwarming to also see the Deputy Senate President's commitment extend to the work on inclusive electoral reform agenda. And ECES, again, is proud to follow this process and will continue to offer support within its mandate. Today, and maybe Jake, if you allow me, this will be my last words, I think your work can be really impactful, as the proposed amendments to the electoral law that we will be reviewing and validating today are the result not of the work of isolated individuals. It's the result of a collective and collaborative work with representatives of PWD's CSOs from all around. So the advocacy work will be made much impactful indeed. I believe after the validation of these proposals, the work will only be starting in a way, because now we probably need to pursue your efforts in convincing those who will have a say in the debate at the end of the day, namely, of course, the MPs. So I will humbly encourage you to go and reach each one of them, present your priorities to them, ask them for commitments. Maybe why not also publish their commitments online? So after the vote, you can also take them accountable. This is also a way of contributing to this democratic pressure to ensure that your advocacy can be, of course, even more effective. But this is just a suggestion, of course. This is, you are best placed in position to know how to exercise your advocacy work. I just wanted to share this encouragement and this suggestion with you today. And I want to conclude by commending all of you for your incredible work you've been doing so far. Much appreciation goes to the Albino Foundation for its leadership through this important process. Special thanks as well goes to the Center for Citizens with Disabilities, the Clean Foundation, and other implementing partners of the European Union support to democratic governance in Nigeria, what we call the EUSDGN program, who have supported this process in one form or another. Finally, I would like also to thank the European Union for its trust, support, and consistent funding of to ECES, allowing the organization to implement programs which deliver electoral assistance and contribute more broadly to democracy and good governance globally. So thank you very much. I wish you all success and fruitful deliberations today, and a lot of success with the reform of the Electoral Act. Thank you very much for the opportunity today.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, in 60 seconds, let's bring in Wilson. Wilson, you have been at the, you have been there at the beginning of this process, and I think it's fair to have you to say a word. I'd like to also thank Dr. Sunday Udo of Leprosy Mission. Thank you for being on the call this morning. Wilson, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Jake. I only speak because you asked me to speak, but Hamza has eloquently and well placed our position and the goodwill of ECES. So because I've been called upon, I would just say very good morning to all the friends of the house. You all are our friends, my friends personally. So it's so good to see you again at this particular time. To say a very big thank you for all the support we've all been giving to one another and all the encouragements. Very special recognition to the Office of the Deputy Senate President. I was trying to look out to see if the Chief of Staff is here, but of course, even in before they arrived, to just say a very good morning to all the team of the Deputy Senate President, also to the team of the Jonah Breed, from the president down to the chairpersons in all 36 states of the Federation. Thank you so much for your commitment through this process, as well as saying a very good morning to all the disability advocates, Grace Jerry, Inclusive Friends. I see you all, the Albino Foundation team, and everyone. Indeed, of course, a huge congratulations to the disability community in Nigeria over the constitution of the Disability Commission. We know this is also a very important step towards advancing the rights of persons with disability in Nigeria. And we are quite, of course, happy as ECES to support you to this process. And we are here. We will follow through closely the conversations that will be happening here to validate this particular process and continue to extend our support, of course, under the leadership of Hamza, who is here as well, and other colleagues who are here, Sylvester and Isiaka, our other colleagues from ECES as well. So thank you very much. We wish you all a very fruitful deliberation in this particular engagement. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Wilson. Grace, I greet you, Grace Jerry, my good friend. In spite of how difficult it is on the way you are, you managed to come in. So I want to really thank you, and to also say to this gathering that Grace did a wonderful job in terms of the contribution she made in the process, and has always been present in most of the meetings. And so, Grace of Inclusive Friends, I'd like to thank you this morning. Now, looks like we don't have a representative of the European Union Delegation Secretariat, but I take it that Hamza, who is one of the big partner of the EU, is here and has represented the EU. So we will have to move quickly because of time. I don't know if my eyes is failing me, if there's a representative of the Senate, the Office of the Senate President. The Deputy Senate President reached out to me a few minutes ago and did render an apology. I think this meeting coincided with another meeting at the National Assembly. First, he wanted to make sure that the Senate President, Deputy Senate President is here, and that is not possible because of another meeting that is going on at himself. He wanted to come, but eventually last minute, he was asked to do some other things. But I don't know, he had specifically detailed Voke. I don't know if Voke is on the call. If Voke is on the call. Is there anybody from the Office of the Senate President who are attending so that we don't miss you out. Anyone? Okay. Again, connectivity is an issue. Sometimes I hear at the National Assembly, the connection is difficult. Let's move quickly.
Jake, while you wait for them, this is Manju speaking.
Go ahead.
Jake, just to inform you that Laulu, the representative of the EU delegation, informed me that yes. So Laulu informed the delegation, the representative of the EU delegation, that she has another meeting clashing with this, but as soon as she can join us, she will join this particular meeting. So probably when she comes, she would also extend their goodwill as well. Just to note that.
Okay, thank you so much, Wilson. Thank you. Always a good backup. I think at this point in time, let's go straight into the business of the day. And when they come, we can allow them to make one or two. We will give them the floor, sorry, to make one or two intervention. But at this time, we'd like to have Professor Sam Amadi to please make a presentation of what his team have worked and presented. And then we will then begin to get your various intervention and input. Professor Sam, I know that Professor Sam has very little time because he has to go back to classroom and lecture. Professor Sam, if you're with us, the floor is yours. I can share screen if you want me to.
Yes, put the screen so that I can quickly go to it when I leave, okay?
Okay. Okay. Prof, we're with you.
Okay, I've not seen the screen yet. Okay. Okay, so basically, this is things we have discussed all along, and the whole effort is to improve the quality of the election and its credibility by making it more inclusive. So all of us are on the same page on the need to use the electoral to amend the electoral act in a manner that provides equal access, equal opportunity, and equal benefit for and facilitation for persons with disability in Nigeria. So that's what it is. And we've done quite some work. And then, yeah, keep moving. Yeah. So the work starts with a certain premise of key values and approach we use. So we looked at a draft that we have certain basic qualities, which means something that will be accessible, usable, simplified, and so on and so forth. And the idea is that ultimately is that this work will lead to a workable electoral process that ensures free and fair election. Jacob, yes? Okay. So I want to look at the key, Jacob, raise it up. So I want to look at the key principles that guided us. Keep going, yes. Okay. First, we are conscious of the reality of the legislative process. That although legislators oftentimes speak more about public interest, public good, but the reality of politics as a terrain for bargaining means that we need to be careful how we frame this. And so, first, we'll make sure that the reform is one that promotes inclusion in all process of election. That means not just at the voting, all process. And that inclusion must be comprehensive and couched in language of obligation. So yes, inclusive, but it's not basically exhortatory or aspirational, but basically obligatory. Make it a law that failure can generate obligation and can generate either punishment or some kind of sanction. Now, show also responsibility. We are concerned about maturity, which means not just a language that's
Prof, I'm going to have to mute everybody. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Prof. Unmute yourself.
So INEC officials will have obligation to enforce these provisions, and that's why we talk about enforceability. Go ahead, Nes, keep moving. Yeah. Okay, cost efficient. Really, in reality, what we also want to make that the obligations we're imposing, are such that are not too difficult. Sometimes when we make laws, we forget that every change in law has a financial and other costs, bureaucratic costs, logistic costs. So it's always good to get the best outcome in a cost-efficient manner, meaning you get a result, but the result does not involve an arm and a leg, which may constitute a discouragement to legislators to finally approve. Let's not forget that this advocacy, so we will not be there when they vote for it. So they better for us if we make it cost efficient in a manner that not at the final clause by clause reading, at the third reading, when it will be passed on either of the houses, the better for us if it's something that not much criticism can be levied on the cost component. And ultimately, we want to make sure that this is sustainable. This is not just going to be one of the history of electoral reform in Nigeria has been too many reforms. So we reform short-sighted. People just make short-term bargain, convenience. We just make it today. Maybe we'll say a problem, we'll fix it. Then the next electoral cycle, that problem is on nerved again, unhooked and refixed and so on and so forth. So this should be sustainable, meaning we're going to look at the long-term impact. Okay, go ahead. So those are the basic core values. Of course, simplicity. And then omnibus provision, where this is basically, we worked on this one. This is to show that if there are certain section by section we didn't cover, there will be a section that provides, by omnibus, what we meant was that this would kind of lay down wide-ranging obligations that anybody who wants to ask for anything on behalf of the disability community will find in the language where to anchor it. And any improvement that needs to be done, maybe things we have not foreseen now, that needs to be done to create that equal access and equal participation in the electoral process, that omnibus provision can anchor it. So let's look at omnibus provision. Jack, go up here. So we say the commission shall ensure that persons with disability can effectively and fully exercise their right to vote and be voted for, and other rights necessary for meaningful participation in political and public life on an equal basis with others by doing the following. So this preamble of this provision makes clear what it's about. It's about effective and full exercise of right, effective and full. So in judicial application, you would read the subsequent provisions in the context of the fact that what the law aims at is to ensure that effective and full. So as society changes, as the dynamics of election changes, the critical focus is, are we providing effective and full complement of enablement for persons with disability to vote and to be voted for as exercise of their right? So we said this effective and full facilitation will require the following. One, ensuring that voting procedures, facilities, and materials are appropriate, accessible, and easy to understand and use. So the procedure for voting, the facilities and the materials, voting card, voting polling, all kinds of everything, that mechanism that enable people to get there. Two, to protect the rights of persons with disability to vote by secret ballot in elections and public referendum without intimidation and undue difficulty, providing appropriate technology. Now, appropriate technology will not be a matter of administrative work. Technology keep changing and better technologies keep arising. But it's important to be aware that we also included public referendum because there are some possibility that in the new constitution, perhaps there could be provisions referenda as a means, or referendum as a means of changing provisions. Again, if you look at the provisions, the constitution regarding some of the local government redistricting, public INEC has the obligation to conduct some kind of referendum. So that's why that's added. Keep going, Jack. Yeah. Let's keep rolling, yeah. Okay. The third point you said guaranteeing the free exercise of the no, go back. Guaranteeing the free exercise of come back. Guaranteeing the free exercise, especially of the will of the persons with disability as electors, and to this end, allowing assistance in voting by a person of their own choice, yes, and encouraging political parties to ensure that venues, processes, and methodology for nominating and selecting candidates for elective office must be accessible to all persons with disability. Okay, section 321 has been one that very critical because that's the mandate function of INEC. And so it says the committee suggests amending section 32D to refer to read foster the inclusion and enabling environment for participation of all, including persons with disability in the electoral process. Now, what this does is that there was no, this is like consequential, there was no provision relating to this function of enabling inclusion on the INEC mandate. So we just basically put it there so that INEC has clear textual mandate to fight for inclusion in order to. B1B, 61B, we also recommended a change which says such office shall be accessible to all persons with disability. This relates to offices. So the idea is to also make it also inclusive. So the community proposed this amendment to the function of INEC. It considers them as necessary reference to all persons, including persons with disability in this circumstance. Go ahead. There is, Jack, roll it up, okay? Jack, move it so that I can continue. I hope you're there. Okay. There is nothing special that additional reference to persons with disability. Okay. So that's the description. Now, section 9 was also changed here. The issue here is that the section did not make any specific reference to disability with regard to the election register. INEC has periodic update of electoral register. So this intend to make sure that in that update, INEC will have a responsibility to also update the disability status of voters as they, so the register of voters will contain specific reference to disability. Keep it up. Let's move on. Yeah. So this is the language we use. Say mandates INEC to compile, maintain, update on a continuous basis a national register of voters which shall include the names and types of disability where applicable of all persons entitled to vote. So basically, to ensure that, because this place already says INEC will maintain and update on a continuous basis a national list of voters, but didn't include disability as one of the items to capture in such updates. So again, section 10.3 also proposed to ensure that during voting, restriction of disability remain a debatable fact. So the proposal was saying that the disability status and type of every prospective voter shall be captured during the continuous voters registration process. Basically, to ensure that disability inclusion goes through all the procedure, both from registration, review, update, and so on. Now, section 26.8, this with the management of the logistics of elections. So we did this change to be the environment and material used for elections shall, as much as practicable, be accessible to persons with disability and persons with other kinds of physical impediment. We introduced this physical impediment because there are like pregnant women are not generally classified as persons with disability, but for the time being are somewhat physically impeded because of the circumstance at that moment. So they will also, the electoral body will also keep that in mind. Section 27.4. This relates to issue around election result declaration. We do know that often INEC also used to have a side translator for this. Afterwards, result will be uploaded online given to candidates. What form should this take? So the concern should be ensured that subsequently, go ahead, that that results can be made available in the manner requested by any person who satisfies due process. The community believes it does not need to. Okay, so what we want, the point here is simple that, look, they used to have sign language. Okay, that's fine. Then we can mandate it. But at the same time, when elections results are over, people will require access to electoral results in usable form. So the idea here is that that form must also be accessible to persons with disability. Section 34 we talk about here notice that should be given to voters. So we say all notice should be in mode, means, and format of communication accessible to persons with disability. Now the language you use, mode, means, and format, is international standard language for dealing with this. So the essence here is that the persons with disability are not in any way disadvantaged with notice for any notice about voting. Now, section 51. The issue has been about separate queue or front-loading, kind of mainstreaming or prioritizing voters. So on 51, the argument here was that maybe it will lead to some level of disability, but we think that the most important thing is to prioritize voting. So section 56 provides this with the most prominent aspect of it, that is to the heart of voting. The major recommendation go two ways. First, go ahead. First is the recommendation. Jack, raise it up, yeah. I hope, okay. The recommendation that the description blind should be removed and replaced with such non-derogatory word as visually impaired. Those who push, move ahead. Those who push for this, well, the argument here is simple. People say, look, we should remove blind because it could be stigmatizing and so on. But at the end of the day, we agree that that's a standard. The language is standard. That blind will be, we should have to keep it there. But we can add other direct descriptions that capture other forms of visual impairment. So we stuck with blind, but additional descriptions that would cover persons who have varying type of visual impairments. Okay, so look at the recommendation. Jack, raised up, okay? So after all the debate, we came to this recommendation, which I think is satisfactory. We say the voter who is blind, so we kept the standard language, whether in international conventions, that word is there, or is otherwise unable to distinguish symbols, or who suffers any other disability that can adversely affect the effective exercise of the right to vote, shall be entitled to be accompanied to the polling unit by a person chosen by him, and the person shall, well, we should watch the gendered language, him or her, but I know they know how to do it. But of course, law says him is also for her. But for what we teach in legal writing is to avoid sexist language. But let's continue. And the person shall, after informing the presiding officer of the disability, be permitted to accompany the voter into the voting compartment and assist the voter to make his mark in accordance with the procedure prescribed by the commission. So here, the critical point here that we retain blind, but provided other descriptions that cover every person. But the point is the right to be assisted according to the choice of the person with disability, and assisted to be able to effectively and fully exercise the right to vote. Now, section 52, also came in point here. And so the point is to make it obligatory on INEC for persons with disability to be assisted. So INEC has been, the point is that INEC has been providing this assistance, but not providing them as part of a legal obligation, but maybe as part of an enlightened operational standard operation in terms of common standard of operation across the world. So we now want to make it compulsory. Go on, yes, go ahead, go up, yes. Okay, so this is what we recommended, that the commission shall take reasonable steps to ensure that voters with disability are assisted at the polling place by the provision of suitable means of communication, such as braille ballot guides, standstill voting system, magnifying glasses, election day written instruction, large embossed print or electronic devices, or sign language interpretation, or off-site voting in appropriate cases. So basically, this is so expansive that it gives INEC the power to do either of this. So any of this or off-site voting, depending on the in the situation, INEC will be bound to, in every way that is necessary to ensure optimal. The catchphrase has always been effective and full. So if it requires magnifying glasses, election day written, INEC could provide that. Okay. So this section provides for priority voting as well. So it's section 563, and then it supplements section 56 1 and 2. So what do we recommend? In section 56.3, we recommend that all reserved voters with disability shall be allowed priority voting upon arrival at their polling unit with their permanent voters card. So this is very clear. There is priority voting. We don't want parallel line, but priority voting, so that whenever they come, they go straight and vote. Now, Section 66 also deals with collection center, the use of sign language. So we try to make it compulsory and clear. I said sign language interpretation must be used simultaneously, even though they use it in so, but it's now a requirement of law, must be used simultaneously at the same time when election results have been declared in different elections. Subsequently, the commission shall make results available in, yes, go up, yes, go up, yeah. So she should make it available in modes and means, okay, modes and means and format of communication easily accessible to persons, the person's requested result. Okay, so the point here is, just to summarize, that the focus has been on two areas. One, we look at the existing regulation and where disability inclusion was not available, we open it up by adding appropriate words. So for example, there's a requirement already for updating voter register, but it does not make any reference to persons with disability, and they're datable facts. So we make disability a datable fact, meaning that in all of those transactions, you are going to capture disability. So that's one aspect of this work, to improve on existing provisions that were not inclusive and made it inclusive. The second aspect of this work is to add sections that create additional responsibility on the INEC, electoral management body, to provide facilitations that otherwise may not be necessary for other persons, but are necessary for persons with disabilities. So we do dual approach, improve existing obligations to make them inclusive, and then create additional facilitation for persons with disability. I think that's what it's all about. So Jack, back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sam Amadi. Thank you for a job well done. And I think in the spirit of gender sensitivity, Grace Jerry, I'm sure she's still on this call. Grace, yes. Grace, I'd like you to say a few words as a core member of the team that drafted this. Please unmute yourself. Grace, if you can unmute yourself to say a few words, and then I'll jump and also recognize Dr. Tony Clinton Jaja. Grace, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jake. Good morning, everyone, and we're excited to be here this morning. Listening closely to Dr. Sam Amadi, I want to say well done to you too, sir, and to all the team who took our time to really work on this amendment. I'm really excited that we've come to this phase of it, the validation, and to call on everyone. You've listened to the narrative from Dr. Sam. It's important that we have a document that is holistic, that captures the mind and the voices of everyone. As much as we are working, we are trying to promote an inclusive electoral system. We're trying to promote access for all. And what we're trying to also remove is the dependence of people with disabilities on, the electoral process, so to say. And when I talk about dependence, I'm looking at how people with disabilities can rely very, very little on assistance and to independently cast their vote, experiencing a secret ballot process. Listening to the narrative, as much as I am almost satisfied, let me use that word, almost satisfied with all that has been captured, the part that I have a little issue with, like I said, very little, I think it's section 51 that still hammers on assistance. Dr. Jake, I don't know if you can put it up, but that's by the way, but it still hammers on assistance. And I wish that emphasis, as much as we can, should begin to deviate from that path gradually to the point where INEC can create a system or the electoral system would work such that people with disabilities would rely solely on themselves and these provisions made accessible for them not to have to rely on an assistant. In the course of our work, we've met visually impaired voters, blind voters who have said things like, we are not even sure if our aid, thumbprints in the party of our choice, blah, blah, blah. And that's why we're promoting the use of the Braille ballot guide, eventually the tactile. Of course, we know that these innovations will be modified as time goes on to the point where we could vote electronically or even of having to be visible at the polling unit. But as much as we can, we should begin to move away gradually from the whole assisting part of this whole process. That's just the part that I still have a little bit of concern with. Overall, every other thought is captured. I see that our own recommendations from Inclusive Friends is also captured already in the process. So we're good. We're excited. Thank you, Dr. Jake.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Grace. At this point in time, I don't know if Dr. Jaja is still on call.
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Yes. You want to just chip in for 60 seconds. I also want to, before we close that, I'd like to inform you that we have more people on social media. We have on about 30 social media that we're streaming live, and those who couldn't join us joined us on social media. Social media is more global, so the whole world is watching us as we embark on this program. Please, can you mute your microphone? Mute your microphone. Okay. So Tony, go ahead, and then immediately after him, we will set the ground rules.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So I think Dr. Sam has covered all that we did as a drafting team, all the contributions and the inputs. What we agreed was at the point where it gets to the office of the Deputy Senate President, the language, the legislative language would be put, anything we have missed out will be put in good. There was an information I got in the process of my work. I work with the National Institute for Legislative Studies. We do drafting and analysis for legislators at the National Assembly. In the course of my work, I came across a bill to alter a section of the Constitution to effect one of the things we have been trying to achieve for PWDs. A constitutional requirement was made that 12 seats in the National Assembly will be reserved for PWDs. So it will increase the number of House of Reps from 360 to 372. It's just an information I came by in the course of my work at the National Assembly. So that's just my contribution. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Patience, I see your hand is up. We'll come back to you. What we're going to do right now is to go into the validation proper. My colleague, Damian, you need to put on your system and share screen so that as people make contribution, you will begin to make those inputs so that we have one mention here, the enormous work that the entire team did, but also my good friend Daniel Owe. Daniel, I didn't see you. Please blame it on my site that
I've been here. Well done, sir.
Yes, but Daniel, take a 60 seconds and say a few words, and then we will just go into main. A lot of people are lifting up your hands. You have the opportunity. Daniel.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Dr. Sam Amadi and Jaja have already said it all. And I want to concur with all that they have said, and also want to point out that this draft is somewhat ambitious, and we have put in all that we want to put in, and it's now left to the lawmaker to sift and determine what will stand and what may not. But overall, it's actually a good one, and I'm hopeful that it will turn out for good. Thank you, everyone.
Hello? Hello, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dalami, you want to say something?
Yeah, please, just quickly. Yeah, I want to thank Professor Amadi for the excellent job and excellent presentation. I just want us to be sure that we're in line with international drafting where we conform to gender sensitivity. So where we have such words as him, I think we should have her as well. And then section 56A, I'm not sure if that was read because I think it said a blind, I don't know if you can quickly read that because there's something I want to point out there. Can you look at section 56A, please? Section 56A.
Okay, section 56.
It was in your phone. I used to see all these things.
Yeah, please, can you mute your microphone if you're not speaking? Section 56, A, yeah, one of the most important, yes. Yes, it's on screen, sir. Where we mentioned the blind.
Yes, it said a blind or something. Can you read that particular sentence?
It said, let me see. One of the most important provisions of the electoral law.
Not that. After that. The next line.
There's a place where it says first, the recommendation that the description blind be removed and replaced with such non-derogatory word, it would have been word as visually impaired. Those who push for the recommendation believe that the describing one as blind may be
I found it. It says a person who is blind or otherwise this, or who suffers. I think we need to remove that word suffers. Nobody suffers from a disability. Rather than suffers, we talk about someone who has a disability. I think suffer is a bit demeaning. Thank you. So let's try and change that language.
Yeah, it's derogatory. So, sir, what we need to do is, does everybody agree that we appoint Damien of the Albino Foundation to start the process of imputing corrections? Or do we have somebody, an alternative person? Mr. Dan Lamy, can you answer on behalf of
continue. Damien, continue.
Okay. All right.
I think you should.
Yeah, Damien, go ahead, share your screen. Barrister Dan Lamy had just mentioned. Yeah, Barrister Dan Lamy had just mentioned one aspect.
Dr. Jake, sorry to cut you. Visually impaired was spelled virtually. That typo should be checked. It's virtually impaired that was written, not visually.
Okay, we'll correct all that. Thank you so much. I saw it myself.
That is true.
Damien, can you go ahead and share your screen and let's start this process? Damien, you're on call, right? Go ahead, share your screen. Okay. There's a whole lot of us who are lifting up your hands. We'll take you one after the other. Okay, so let's, Patience, Patience, can you unmute? Patience Dixon, can you unmute and make your intervention?
Thank you, Jake. Thank you for the opportunity, and a big thank you to the team for putting this document together. It's a really wonderful document, and they did a great job indeed. I think I concur with many of the things there. In fact, almost everything. I just have just to add my voice to just feel one or two that I heard or listened to, and that is the cost-effective part of that document. I actually like that part because when you consider that. That is one of the hindrances with disability in many of the implementation process. Cost is very, very key. I like the way you put it there, but I just also want to point out that we shouldn't make it a kind of, the cost is like a force for us not to be included. For example, if there are inclusive equipment or materials or inclusiveness in all entirety that we need to include, and it has to do with cost. So long as it's the right of persons with disability, cost should not come in. Yes, I like the way you put it, we should not overdo it, but cost is part of the inclusiveness of persons with disability. I just wanted to point that out. So we might want to also emphasize on the rights of persons with disability, which I'm sure is already there, that this is the right approach we are using, not because of it's expensive to do or all that, because a lot of governments have been actually highlighting that inclusiveness of persons with disabilities is actually very, very costly and very high. Having said that, I just also want to commend the team for putting that space for omnibus. Because most of the time after the review, we always come up with one thing or the other that we have not included or we forgot to include. I think this space can actually include such things. We can put in as many things as we want. And then concerning the process, I like the fact that the presentation also talked about considering persons with disability in all the processes. Beginning to the end, because most of the time what we see is that we are always part of the process at the beginning when it comes to design, when it comes to what we want to put in. And at the end of the day, when it comes to implementation, most of us just disappear from the space. And then it is very key that we are part of the space from the beginning and to the end. So we also need to emphasize that, because the way that this document can actually be weighty is for persons with disability to always be engaged as the process goes on, so that what is not there is actually there. And then concerning the language, this language use, I think our standard, well, that is what I believe, I don't know for all my colleagues here, is the UNCRPD the standard that most of us are looking out to. I remember when we were in the African Union a review for Beijing, and then some youths were delivering their commitments to the states, and they were mentioning cripple, people who are crippled, and then everybody was asking, oh, cripple, what do you mean by that? And they said that is what the community said they want to be known for when they were actually in that conversation, in that space. But I think many of us actually called their attention to say we should refer to the UNCRPD. I just wanted to point some of these issues out. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well captured, Patience. There's a lot of people who are lifting up their hands. Unfortunately, you all know that I struggle with my sight. So I'm going to hand over this process of validation correction to a dear friend of mine and our funding partner, ECES. Wilson will take it up from here and work with Damien, to avoid my inability to see anyone that I need to beckon on to make their input. So Wilson, please, you have the floor until this process is done.
Okay, thank you very much, Jake. I'm happy to always work together with you in this process. Thank you, Patience, for your contribution. I see that most of the hands that were up are now down. For some reason, I don't know if the colleagues had dropped down their hand deliberately or not, but I recall seeing, okay, now we have Theophilus Odaudu. Theophilus,
I think
can
some
we?
of them want to put their messages in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. Theophilus here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Theo.
Okay,
We
thank you
begin with
very
you.
much. Yes, so I would like to
Theophilus, go ahead.
thank Professor Sam Amadi for going over the memorandum. And I think it has solved a lot of the questions that I have, because I did actually mark a few things I wanted to talk about. However, I will still be talking about a few things. Many of them will have to do with probably some typos that I feel should be corrected. So so there is a place where, so let me get to that place. So under section 10, where it talks about the disability data, where it says the proposed amendment is as follows, that the disability status and type of every prospective voter. I think that didn't come out well for me. I understand that it's trying to say the disability status and the type of disability, but leaving it the way it is does not really pass the message, because I'm envisaging, if you say you are looking for a disability status, it means you want to ask if a particular voter has a disability or not. And where he says yes, then he provides the type. But if he says no, then there will be nothing to put in there. And so rather, I would prefer that it states that the disability status and type of disability where applicable. Because just say the disability status and type of they're referring to the voter. So it should state to pick disability status and type of disability where applicable. I think that passed the message, because if my disability status is no, then the other part of the statement that has to do with type will not really apply to me. So that's the major contribution I have to do in terms of the text. But I have, like I said, a few things to do with typographical corrections. So like under section 26, it's where it says the environment and materials used for elections shall as much practicable. I think it's supposed to be as much as practicable. I don't know if that's what was intended there, but the second as is missing in the document that I have. Okay, this has been answered. Let's see. Okay, so Sorry, because I'm struggling to read from Zoom at the same time, and then the screen reader is just a minute.
It's okay. You have more
Okay,
corrections?
Yeah, so I think that's the major contribution. All others have been addressed when Professor Sam Amadi was explaining the document. So yeah, so those are the major contributions I want to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Theophilus, for your inputs. They are all noted. Onitiju Kende, I saw your hand up and now I see it's dropped. Do you still want to make a contribution? Onitiju, you can unmute yourself if you still want to make a contribution.
I appreciate.
Yes.
I appreciate Dr. Jake and the all the groups that have participated in the compiling of the document for disability community in Nigeria. Barrister Hon, we have said it all. That is very important for the convener to pursue the paper, I mean the document, to the floor of the House of Rep and House of the Senate, because it will not be an ordinary paper. It will be a document for this generation and the generation to come. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Kende. Theophilus Odaudu, the floor is now yours. You have a minute as well for your intervention. Theophilus Odaudu. You are already unmuted, so you can speak. Theophilus Odaudu.
Theophilus has spoken already.
So now, you can make use of the chat box. All right, noted, Dr. Barrister Daniel.
I think Theophilus
has
made his input.
Exactly, it's noted. It's noted.
Okay.
Yes, Damian, that is noted. Thank you very much. We'll just also encourage you, for those that cannot use the raise hand button, you can also note in the chat box that you want to speak, and we'll also call you out. We are monitoring both of the tools that are available. Okay, Kanu, your floor is now yours. Okay, Kanu, if you can hear.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear.
Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to be here. Yes, I just want to make. I just want to make my observation on some of the recommendations. When we look at, let me start from the onset. Proposed amendment section by section. Then we have the omnibus provision. The second line, the second paragraph there, I feel something is missing, where it is written, ensuring that voting procedures facilities. I feel that we should add venue, ensuring that voting venue, then procedures, facilities, and materials are appropriate, accessible, and easy to understand and use. So the addition of venue there, I feel is important. I also want to make my intervention on section 61B. And my comment on that is that I don't think that section 61B is conceptually tautological, quote and unquote. And why I say so is that adding persons with disabilities is for emphasis and specificity. When provisions are left in such general terms without emphasis, the tendency is that persons with disabilities, their peculiarities will be swept under the carpet. I also want to make my intervention as regards section 26.8. And my comment there is that I have problems with the proposed amendment. The first observation I want to make is that the phrase, quote and unquote, as much as practicable, gives the implementers a leeway or discretion, so that when they exercise such a discretion which is not in our favor, we don't have any right to complain, because discretion is not enforceable. Then the second I want to make on that is that the phrase, quote and unquote, persons with disabilities and persons with other kinds of physical impediments, is tautological. This is because persons with disabilities include persons with physical impediments. So there's no need of repeating that there. Continuing, I also want to look at the recommendation on that in addition, it will be very difficult for those with physical disability pertaining to their legs to stand in such queue. Let the provision stop at giving priority to voters with disabilities in queuing situations.
Where are you talking about?
You said?
Mr. Kanu, where are you, which section?
The last I mentioned is section 51. That is where it is written, the recommended section 51 may provide the separate queue for persons with disabilities. I said, in addition to this recommendation here, or this observation here, I'm also saying that it will be very difficult for those with physical disability pertaining to their legs to stand in such queues. In other words, I'm also emphasizing this. Then, and I'm also suggesting that the provisions should stop at giving priority to voters with disabilities in queuing situations. I don't know if I made myself clear there. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Then I want to look at the recommendation.
Sorry, Mr. Kanu. Sorry, Mr. Kanu. Which area are you looking at? Are you saying that we should specify physical disabilities?
As regards which
section 51.
What
are you trying to say in essence? I can't hear you. You're breaking.
No.
Hello, Mr. Kanu, you're breaking.
Hello.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I can hear you. Hello.
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 Yes, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Let me just run it down so that we can follow. That you said it is written there. The recommended section 51 may provide the separate queue for persons with disabilities. This seems on the surface to be empowering, in that it suggests recognition of the challenge of persons with disabilities and seems to mainstream them in the queue. But it has two great setbacks. First, it can lead to segregation and victimization. Also, it can constitute a logistic challenge where there may be space and other constraints. It serves no great value in the context of a provision for prioritization of disability voting. And I said, in addition to this observation here, that it will also be very difficult for those with physical disability pertaining to their legs to stand in such queue. If you are saying, let's give them a separate queue, giving a separate queue doesn't solve a problem. It creates problem for those with physical disability, those who cannot stand on their legs, especially for a long time. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. I can hear you.
I can hear you. Yes. So I'm saying those, say in addition, those with physical challenge pertaining to their legs cannot even stand, even if you give them a separate queue. You know, as a preference, that those with disabilities, you have, this is your own queue. Then those without disability, this is your own queue. So if you say those with disabilities, this is your own queue. Those who have physical challenge in terms with as regards their legs, they will also find it difficult to even queue on that their own queue, to line up in that their own queue. In other words, I'm supporting that giving a separate queue shouldn't arise. Rather, there should be priority of voting. Whenever a disabled person comes into the voting center, he should be given priority. He should be called and given materials to vote, not lining up. That priority should be there. That's what I'm saying. Being given priority in queuing situation. Because I know when we talk of voting, people queue up, people line up. But disabled persons shouldn't be allowed to line up. So that preference should be given to them too, be attended to as soon as they come to the voting center.
Yes, Barrister, okay.
That's the point I make. Let me just finish. Let me just.
Okay, go ahead. We've lost him. Barrister, okay.
Go ahead, Barrister. Are you still here? I think he's still here.
Just make my last point.
Okay.
The last point I make. I hope I was here though. Did I waste my time? I hope I was
here. We heard you.
Hello?
We heard you, okay?
But we heard your point.
Hello?
Your point is I think your point has been made and gotten.
Hello?
Though we lost you for 30 seconds. Can you hear us?
Please, let me just make this final observation. Concerning section 56.2, the recommended amendment there. They said the commission shall take reasonable steps. My quarrel is with that phrase, reasonable steps. Reasonable steps is vague. It's vague. So when you say take reasonable, it has become subjective. If there is anything we want the commission to do, it should be couched properly with the language of drafting, which is sharp. But when you say take reasonable steps, you are giving them leeway, and it is subjective. When they didn't meet up our targets, nobody will blame them. So that reasonable steps shouldn't be there. Let me stop so far. I don't think the network is very, very fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Okay, for your interventions. I think your points were well noted. Jake, you wanted to make an intervention?
Yeah. I wanted to emphasize that. I mean, Okay is a lawyer and a legal drafter, but I wanted to remind him that the emphasis I saw what Professor Stan and the team presented was not on queuing. They actually did not recommend queuing, but priority voting. There's no provision that says a particular type of disability or persons with disability will have to queue in one line or the other. I think they were very emphatic about that recommendation of priority voting in place of queuing. Maybe other members of the committee, drafting committee, can weigh in on this. And co. Daniel, Barrister Dan Lamy, you can weigh in on this.
Okay, President Jake, before we go into that, while he was making his intervention, we have the Office of the DSP, the Chief of Staff to the Deputy Senate President, Dr. TV Iguzo, who is here with us and has joined us now. We also have the representative of the EU delegation, the Program Manager for the Democracy, Governance and Migration section, Laulu Olawumi. She has also joined us. So I don't know if they would want to make their brief interventions at this point, or we can proceed and they also join in and make the interventions later. Dr. Otive, are you ready to?
Manji, sorry to interrupt.
Grace, go ahead.
This where you just made a correction. Physical disability.
Hello?
I think it should just be persons with disability, not just persons with physical disability.
Okay, we will correct that. I think we have the chief of staff.
Chime in now.
Yeah, we have the chief of staff. Please, Doc, you have the floor, Dr. Tive.
Thank you very much, Dr. J. Capelle. Let me first apologize for coming in late. It's due to multiple commitments. I'm just close from one meeting now and I'm going to another. But I will, as much as possible, follow the deliberations. And all the members that are involved in this initiative. As you all know, the office of the Deputy Senate President is committed to justice for all, justice for women, justice for persons with disability, justice for young people, and justice for all citizens of Nigeria. And we've been collaborating in this exercise, and I want to assure you that whatever recommendations come from there, we will be able to put it before the electoral reform team who are working on this. But let me just add that doing the recommendations is not the end of the work. You have to continue to push with advocacy. But what we can assure you is we'll assure you we'll provide the access for you to do that, provide the necessary information, and join you in the advocacy for that to happen. Thank you very much, and I wish you successful deliberations. But I will still be around as much as I can to look at the recommendations and the discussions that are going on. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, the Chief of Staff and the representative of the Deputy Senate President. Let me openly take responsibility for the mix-up. It wasn't more of multiple engagement that we have. It's just that there were some email hiccup, and the email that I was supposed to have sent earlier did not go through, and yet you find it in your kind heart to quickly cover me up. I take responsibility for the mix-up. At this time, let's invite the let's invite the representative of the EU to take the floor. Laulu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pele. And again, to just say thank you for the opportunity to be here. I apologize also that I didn't join from the beginning. I also just finished another meeting. But just so that I don't take away from where you are in the meeting, I just wanted to state at least two things. The first is that I'm particularly pleased that this particular intervention has been across board, looking at the entire community coming together to make these proposals. What that tells us is that there would be some level of ownership and people can feel that they have jointly contributed to this document. And to also offer my sincere gratitude to the team that are led on this, particularly the drafters who have, I know that you've had several meetings deliberating on this and trying to refine it to the extent that we are seeing today. So a very collaborative work across board, and to say thank you for that. But my second key point would be that this is just the first step. No matter how well the document is put together and presented, if we don't have effective follow-up and also the political will for the examination and adoption of this of these interventions, then we wouldn't have completed our job. And that's why I'm so pleased that the Office of the DSP is represented here this morning and have indeed been part of the process. I've been kind enough to show up anytime they've been called upon, and I hope that this show of goodwill that we have witnessed from the DSP's office, given that we are the arrowhead on this electoral reform, continues to such an extent that when these proceedings resume at the floor of the Senate, that all of these recommendations will be carefully considered to the best extent possible. So thank you again for the opportunity to contribute, and I wish us all a fruitful conclusion to this meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Laulu. I hand over to my colleague Wilson to continue the process of correction of the document, and to assure you, Laulu, and the Deputy Senate President that you know that I can be like a buck. I will worry all of you, all the people involved with the community until we see it in the electoral bill. I can assure you that. I can assure you that. So, with that said, colleagues, Wilson is the best man for the job, and I hand over to him. Thank you, Wilson.
President Jake, thank you for putting others first at all times. Well, we know how instrumental your role is to all this. So, well, without wasting much time, thank you so much, Dr. Otive, as always, for your sustained contributions, and Laulu as well. Always dependable, you all. We are so grateful for your availability and your speeches. Abdullahi Jugnu, your hand has been up for a while, so I hope it's not too tired. So please, could you make your intervention as well? Thank you, always being here with us as well and making very valuable inputs. Abdullahi, let's hear you now. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Abdullahi. Go ahead with
Okay. Good morning, all, and good morning, Mr. Jack, and the participant. Sorry, please, I join you shortly because we don't have light in our area. Just now, I was informed by Barrister Alami Basharu. I have a little contribution that I'm going to talk. If Jack can mobilize next election, like Ido and Ondo that they are going to hold it now. Not just if Jay can hold it and mobilize physical challenge, that is the different parties. Physical challenge like INEC used to do it and then call the one political party and join them together and share the idea. If any election comes, why can't Jay mobilize, join political parties, join disability group, and then share idea within interaction how I want to success of the election. I think that is my idea. If the judge can buy the idea, please. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Abdullahi, for your point. I think Jake has noted your suggestion to him and will take that outside this particular validation meeting for further action. So Jake, note that and you speak with Abdullahi later. For others that have direct contributions related to the document, please, we are expecting you. You can put your hands up or you drop your messages in the chat group so that we can also read them. Or you also note in your chat, in the chat box, that you have a point to make, or you can write your hands raised or raise hand and we'll also pick you up to speak. Abonyi Adaobi, you wrote that I would suggest they should establish disability desk in INEC for persons with disability.
Are you here? Yes, yes, yes.
And also, I'm award blind, and well, your disability desk, I think INEC has done that already, not just in the headquarters, but also in its state's offices with disability desk officers. If you need their contacts, I think we would find ways to make that available. That should be the action point from your contribution. And those numbers would be shared across the community for those who need them in the respective states. And of course, Ede Chinyere responded to you. And Chinyere, you're also asking if the interpreter is switching off his cam. I don't think he's switching off. You know, the network has been, the bandwidth has been epileptic these past few days. So try to just hook up to Kende. The interpreter is on. As much as he's available, he will continue to make the interpretations. Please, your hand should be up. And once you've spoken, you can bring down your hand. Babalola Ismail, your hand is up. You're next. You have a minute for your intervention, please.
Good morning, all. We really appreciate the convener of the program, and may God bless them all. Please, my own contribution is that from the electoral submission, let's say amendment, we have not seen a place that talking about the electoral or electoral monitoring or election monitoring, or in which that even if we prepare or we submit a best of the bill, if we are not monitoring it on the day of election, they can just put it aside. So we need to inform the electoral body that we need a person or a kind of a body that will be monitoring all the submission that we made on this bill, so that they can be fully implemented on the day of election. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your point, Babalola Ismail. Your point, your action point is also noted for the community and also the team who intend to coordinate and continue to follow through your proceedings. Jake, that is noted. Kalista Chinyere, you are next. Ugwan Kalista Chinyere. Ugwan Kalista, can you unmute yourself? Kalista Chinyere.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Kalista. Go ahead. You have a minute for your intervention.
All right. It's good. Many of my colleagues have said most of the things I wanted to say, but I'm just wondering that now that the commission is promising that soon we'll be shifting to electronic voting. Is it impossible for the commission to consider a device or electronic means whereby persons with disabilities, especially the blind, can walk to the polling booth and just like we do with our ATM while withdrawing or transacting our monetary businesses, press buttons on our vote for people of our choice, candidates of our choice, instead of relying on human assistance, because there have been incidences to show that one cannot really 100% rely on an assistant, even if it's one's biological child, because the person may have a different candidate that he or she wishes to win the election, and then you tell the person, I want to put my hands for Mr. A, and the person goes to Mr. C, that is his choice, and puts your hand. Because this brings apathy among the blind clusters, and don't go out to vote. not trusting that their votes will count or that their choice will be effected as directed by them. So is there no way, or is it cost? Is it because of cost or that it is impracticable to include this so that in the nearest future, when they would have changed from manual to electronic voting as promised?
Okay, thank you very much, Kalista.
That would be updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalista. Your point is noted. I think it ties closely to what Grace Jerry had mentioned earlier, and even interventions by some of our amiable legal drafting team. When you see section 28, subsection 26, subsection 8 of the provision and the submission that has been made, the suggestion is that election materials and the environment and materials used for elections shall, as much as practicable, be accessible to persons with disabilities and persons with other kinds of physical impediments. I think with the issue of e-voting and other electronic processes that you have recommended, if the commission goes that way, the materials that should allow for the persons with disabilities to vote without much assistance, as you have added, would basically have this consideration given. Of course, later the legal drafting team and other disability experts around would also make inputs, specific inputs as needed, but I think the recommendations have these captured as well. I saw you earlier. Okay, the hands that are up, some are still down, but in the chat box we have some comments. So the technical team, could you check what the situation is with the camera of Kende, the interpreter, for the sign language interpreter, because it seems they are not seeing his camera very well.
Camera is on
as well. Okay, it's on
Mr.
now.
Wilson,
Very good.
it's on. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Wilson, what happens is that especially people who are watching with phone, the orientation will shift. So you need to swap your phone or move your laptop to be able to see the beginning of the camera presentation. I think that's the problem.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Clinton, Jaja, Dr. Tonya, you've heard this feedback as well. I don't know if there is any need for any review to any of the section, but I see from the qualitative magazine, they're also saying the electronic voting will be more convenient for PWDs. This should be an opportunity to push for its adoption, where some of these processes, of course, would be implemented. Honey Adaobi, your hand was up several times, up, down, up, down. I don't know if you are still interested in making a comment, but before I see your hand up again, Dr. Tonya Jaja, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think at the level of the drafting team, one of the things we said is all the suggestions are there. The language is not perfect. You can't have a perfect draft. That when it gets to the office of the DSP, at his office, they have legislative drafters who would now ensure that what we submit meets their legislative language requirements and other requirements before the final submission. I think that was what we agreed. So most of these suggestions, they are all suggestions. When they get there, the DSP's office will know what to do to bring it. Then with my hindsight of what is also going on, there are some suggestions we are making in this draft that may have been covered by alterations to the Constitution. There are bills for alteration of certain parts of the Constitution, such as this electronic voting. There are bills before the National Assembly Committee on Constitutional amendments. So it's up to the DSP's office to reconcile these things.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tonier. And of course, indeed, you made a very valid point as well. So of course, just to recollect to all our participants, if you're not speaking, kindly mute yourself. But just to recollect to all of our participants that yes, thankfully the Office of the Deputy Senate President is leading on both processes in terms of the constitutional amendment process and the Electoral Act amendment process. And we are quite fortunate to be working very closely with them in this process. As you can see, the high level of interest and participation from that office. Dr. Tive is one of us. He's always been an advocate for inclusivity and also, of course, developmental processes. And we should be very glad and are hopeful, and we know that every recommendation that you're putting, including the additional perspectives you are bringing to the table, he is receiving them. And when the harmonization is being done or any thoughts from the Office of the DSP, all of these points will be comprehensively added as it is. So thank you so much, Dr. Tonier, for that clarification. Dr. TV,
Yeah, thank you.
I see your
I'm
mic is
hearing you,
unmuted.
but I would suggest that it will be much better if you are very clear about your suggestions. If there are suggestions that has implications for constitutional review, it's also better to put those ones separately in a memo to the Constitutional Review Committee. You know, government is not like NGO. It's not as if it's our office that is going to take all the decisions. We are still going to give them to the senators who will look at it and vote on it and decide what is to go in and what is not to go in. The only advantage is that you have me here who is an advocate, so we'll provide all the access for the twins. But my advice is that you should be very clear on what you want. All the recommendations you want must be clear. If it is relating to electoral law, make it separate. Then we take it to the Committee on Electoral Law. If it is to regards to the Constitutional Review, make it separate and we take it to the Constitutional Review Committee.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tive, for that point. Jake and the legal drafting team, we would, this is for all of us. So let's think if there are other elements that we needed to bring in terms of the constitutional amendment process that were not captured here for obvious reasons, and those that needed to be moved out from the Electoral Act process or enhanced as the case is, so we can carry on from the recommendation of Dr. Otive right now. Thank you so much, Dr. Otive, for that very important feedback, immediate feedback that we've received. I don't see any other hand up at the moment. If that is the case, I would yield the floor back to Jake so that probably, okay, I have
Sorry,
Babalola
sir.
Ismail, who dropped a point. Let me just read it out from the chat box, who says, on the issue of future updating or registration of PVC and capturing of disabilities on their data, and if possible, show on the card, can still help our visually impaired people not to further go to court for affidavit. So if you capture the disabilities and data of PWDs in future registration processes, this can help the PWD community not to go to court for affidavits when they want to thumbprint at financial institutions and accept as a means of identity card. Oh, okay, it's a suggestion in terms of identity card, but as well, I think there are other processes that the government has also is currently undertaking in terms of harmonizing the biometric identification of all Nigerians. I think to find ways to have one document that can serve as several tools for identification across all of these processes. But I think this is also noted, and if there's any feedback, the team will also provide as the case is. Jake, take it up from here so we quickly wrap up this process and move on. Yes, who is trying to? Who is speaking?
I think there are two more.
Yes, it's Theophilus, please.
Theophilus and one other person.
Oh, I thought he had spoken and they
Yes.
said he wasn't going to speak again. Okay, Theophilus.
Yes,
Go ahead. Theophilus
I just wanted to make a point based on what Barrister Kanu spoke about, because I had the same issue, but I thought the clarification by Professor Sam Amadi had rested it, but he still made the same point, and I want us to know if we still need it here, which I think we do.
Okay.
That's the part that talks about physical impediments under section 26. It was explained that the physical impediment, there is a other physical impediments relates to other impediments that are not necessarily disabilities. And he gave an example by saying like pregnant women who at that time have some impediments, but they are not necessarily persons with disabilities, and that provisions also does cover them. But I know Dr. Barrister Kanu said that part is not necessary. So I don't know which decision we are taking on that, but I think it can be left there since it covers another category of persons that can benefit from it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
May I respond?
Theophilus Odaudu for that. Also be wants to respond now. Barrister Daniel?
Barrister Daniel,
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead,
Yes.
Barrister Daniel.
Yes. Why we actually put that provision at the drafting stage is, as already pointed out by Theophilus, that impediment here is not limited to disability. And people who suffer such impediment may not classify themselves as persons with disabilities, like pregnant women, for instance, or people who may have any other impediment that's not necessarily disability. I don't know whether O.J. Kanu was around to hear when explanation was given along this line. And I think we shouldn't be too confined or centered on ourselves alone. Because even presently at polling booths, considerations are being given to even pregnant women, elderly ones. So if we reflect it here, I don't think it's out of order. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Barrister Daniel. Barrister Danlami, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I do understand Barrister Kanu's concern, because if we talk about physical, we have to talk about visual impediments as well. So I would rather actually delete that word physical and just leave impediments alone, so that we don't confuse ourselves the more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barrister Danlami, for the suggestion as well. Jake, I think take it out from here so that we wrap up.
May I just
okay.
I think Daniel wants to come in.
Okay, go ahead. Aboyi.
No, Daniel wanted to come in.
Okay.
Daniel.
Okay, thank you. Well, this issue of taking physical to be limited to physical disability, I think it applies only to the disability community, such that if you are talking about physical impediment, it doesn't necessarily have to apply to disability. What about people who have some psychological impediments? Will you now say that they are physical impediments and therefore these situations should apply, or rather that such impediment will also entitle them to the provisions of this clause? So I think it's okay that yes, it's only in the disability community that physical only applies to a particular class of disability. Generally, it doesn't distinguish between it's not only limited to disability or things that have to do with legs and hands alone. It's wider in general use. Thank you.
Okay,
So
Daniel.
Barrister Daniel, what your suggestion saying now? Should we take out the physical as suggested by Barrister Anlami, and leave only impediments so that it for every cluster, as has been emphasized? Or what is your precise suggestion in this so that Damien can have it captured?
Wilson, let me make a suggestion that I think will serve as a generic phrase. Why can't we look at visible and or invisible? Barrister Danlami, can we look at visible or invisible?
Sorry, can I come in, please?
Yes, sir.
This bill refers to disability. So anybody reading anything about physical or visual or whatever would refer to disability. So these physical impediments we are talking about, people will read it as physical disability. So that's why I said, let's remove the physical and just leave all other impediments. Other impediments can be determined by the electoral body.
Okay,
So,
other kinds of
physical, psychological, or whatever. We just say all other impediments.
Other kinds of impairment, not impediments, sir.
No, not, you can't say impairments. If you say impairments, you are referring to disability again.
Impediment.
So other impediments.
Okay.
And
right.
the electoral body can determine, who those are being referred to. Thank you.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, it's okay.
Jake,
I think a few
Jake,
people's hands are up. A few people's hands
yes,
are
but
up.
Jake, we already have Abdullah Jugunu. He spoke earlier, and Theophilus has also spoken earlier. The only person that is new is Tonya, Dr. Clinton Jaja.
So Jaja has also spoken earlier.
No, but he raised his hand again. So that's what I'm saying. So let him, he just raised it now that this issue is coming up. So I think he wants to provide another
Dr. Jaja, come on.
completion to that.
Okay,
Dr. Jaja, go ahead.
Thank God that Dr. Otavi is here. That's why I keep using the expression legislative language. When you amend, let's assume we're amending the Electoral Act, there's something called consequential amendment. So when you amend a law, you also do consequential amendment. That means there's an interpretation section of every law. It means you have to also include in this act, disability means blah, blah, blah. You have to give a comprehensive definition. That will be the consequence of this if this amendment is taken by the Senate. That's why I keep referring to the team, the drafting team in the in-house, in DSP's office. Would take care of this, because once you define what disability means, then it takes care of anywhere the word disability occurs. It now means whether mental disability, whether physical, and all that. That's just my.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia. Jake, I want to ask the technical team, kindly mute some of the people that are not contributing, like Aboni, Babalola, Taufik. Mute them, please, so that they do not interfere when people are having.
Okay, Wilson, I'm going to mute everybody and you'll mute yourself.
Is not connected.
Wilson, unmute yourself. I had to mute everybody.
Okay,
I'll be trying to
Babalola
contribute, but the network is not clear.
Okay, can you?
Okay, go ahead, Babalola Ismail. No,
Hello.
she can contribute now. So
okay,
go ahead,
can I
Babalola
talk
Ismail.
now?
Go ahead.
Can I talk?
Go ahead. You have a minute. You have a minute. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adaobi. What I mean by the INEC establishing the disability desk is that, like in a polling unit or in a polling booth, if that can make it like special for person with disability, like this is their own debt for them to come and vote. I happen to monitor an election in my area as an observer, but what I experienced there, that's why I suggest that. Because my people came to vote, which they did not even allow them to vote like that. And I tried to let them to cut their this thing for them to allow us to vote. But what they are trying to say is that we should wait. But when they establish that disability, they will just make particular for person with disability. It will now give us the opportunity to come and vote. What cannot talk about people standing on a queue? Yes, that disability that can equally give opportunity. We can't even come and stand on a queue. We can find it very possible for us to vote. And about the issue of blind, if they can do us a favor and they reach that blind and put it as in visually impaired, we would like to, we can take that, please. I hope, how would I put it?
Thank you very
I
much.
hope my contribution was accepted, right? Thank you.
Yes,
yes.
Your contribution was noted. Thank you very much.
Just Adobe, we don't want to be going back and forth. I can assure you that one of the greatest advocate and authority for the blind community is Sadan Lamin, the UN here on CRPD. We had argued this issue back and forth, and I've also researched various UN documents that you will find the word blind. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It was a hot, it was a heated debate that we eventually had to resort to using the phrase blind, and check throughout all the UN conventions, they use the word blind. There's nothing wrong with that, since the community accepted it. All right, so at this point in time, what we'll do as the final phase, as before we log out, is to go through the document page by page to say that we are okay, because by Monday, we are going to transmit this document to the office of the DSP. We don't have time. So Damian will go page 1, page 2, page 3, just in case there is something that we needed to add or delete. So Damian, let's go. Please make it bold. Zoom up the, good, thank you. So we have the preambles, page 1, and those of you who have eagle eyes and can pick up typos, please stop us as we scroll and we can make the amendment. So go, page 1. Page 2.
You have to read for the benefit of the blind.
Okay. All right. Damian, please. Incidentally, Damian, you read very well. Damian, please read.
Okay. Preamble. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Preamble. The proposed 2020 Amendment Electoral Bill is an avenue to bridge the gap in the ongoing amendment of the electoral laws of 2010. The current process is void of disability inclusion. Hence, our desire to drive inclusion of disability provisions in the present effort to amend the Electoral Act by the National Assembly. There is no doubt that the conclusion of this exercise, the effort. There is no doubt that the conclusion of this exercise
so I think it's to delete the effort.
Something is missing there.
Something is missing here.
Let's see where you're reading.
There is no doubt that the conclusion of this exercise the effort will radically improve the quality of election. I think there is something missing here.
Will radically improve.
There is no doubt that at the
I
conclusion,
think we need the word,
at the conclusion
the
of this
effort.
exercise,
So
there is no doubt that at the conclusion of this exercise,
will radically improve. I think I deleted the effort.
Okay, go ahead.
Will
In order.
radically improve the quality of election and credibility of the electoral process in Nigeria. Although,
Please read that again. Please retake that again.
okay, there is no doubt that the conclusion of this exercise will radically improve the quality of election and credibility of the electoral process in Nigeria. Although the disability community are concerned about inclusion of persons with disabilities and their worries in the electoral law, the community noted that the general quality of elections and electoral process is extremely important to persons with disabilities as citizens of Nigeria who are adversely affected by bad elections leading to bad governance. Hence, the ultimate focus of the review.
Damien,
Yes.
in that particular sentence, because we have, although the disability community are concerned about inclusion of persons with disabilities and their worries in the electoral law, it's supposed to be a comma, not a full stop. Then you would have the community notes that then, okay, the community notes, not noted, notes, or it can work either way. Yeah, notes that the general quality of elections, electoral process, and electoral processes.
He's sleeping, right? Let them leave him. Leave him. When they come, give them my thoughts. Let them come
It's
back.
extremely important. Go ahead now.
It's extremely important to persons with disabilities as citizens of Nigeria who are adversely affected by bad elections leading to bad governance. Hence, the ultimate focus of the review is to bequeath to the country a workable electoral process that ensures free, fair, and credible elections. Furthermore,
what about fair, inclusive? We have been using that word recently. So free, fair, inclusive and credible.
Inclusive.
Free, fair. Okay.
Inclusive should come first. Inclusive,
ensures
free, fair, and credible.
And credible elections.
I think
and inclusive.
I think inclusive, you put comma, then free, fair.
Inclusive, comma.
That ensures, and you need to put and, since we have inclusive coming first, so that ensures an inclusive. Okay, very good.
Hence, the ultimate focus of the review is to bequeath to the country a workable electoral process that ensures an inclusive, free, fair, and credible elections. Furthermore, the community is desirous on the feasibility of the proposed amendments. The legislative principle is that legislation is a matter of pragmatism. Legislators, as much as they are motivated by altruism, the public good, is a creature of politics and negotiation.
080 0802 383.
Danny, mute.
Sir, mute everybody so that only Damian can be speaking. Please.
It means that as much as the proposed amendments are reasonable, cost efficient, and generally acceptable to a larger section of the community, its chance of success is enhanced. The disability community understands that every provision has financial and social costs and are realistic in proposing these amendments.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Damien. So sorry to interrupt. There was a part you mentioned, creators. I don't understand. Could you take us back a little bit? Creators. Is that what creators or creation, or what are we trying to say there? Legislators, stop, you can stop. Oh, yeah, you can stop. Yeah, from the legislators, as much as they are motivated by altruistic and the public good.
And public good is a creature of public or politics and negotiation.
Is that the right word there, the creatures?
I think they mean to write creation.
Creation.
Although I do
creation.
think it's creation, although the sentence seems a bit cumbersome as it is. Legislators, as much as they are motivated by altruism and the public good, seems a bit cumbersome. So we may likely want to rephrase it a bit.
Rephrase it a bit because it's, like you said, it's cumbersome. I don't even know what it means.
Legislators, as much as they are motivated by altruism and the public good, is a creation of politics and negotiation. For me, I don't think this thing makes much sense.
Indeed.
What actually is the
if
creation
we
of
want to
politics and
rephrase the
negotiation?
sentence. So I think the point is trying to refer. Dr. Amadi, Dr. Sam, are you still here?
I don't think he's here.
But he's gone for lecture.
Okay.
Why don't we just
so
remove
that
it?
sentence seems to be a bit cumbersome.
So
what we can do is we can leave it. It's ambiguous, it's cumbersome, and it doesn't. I don't think taking it out will affect the overall outcome of that
What we could do,
sentence.
Since Dr. Sam Amadi is not here, just leave it highlighted in red, and maybe he could either probably tell us clarify what he means, and then we'll look for a simplified language. So to say, to steal.
That's right.
My sister Grace, we don't have time. Let me give you. I have an information that this bill is likely to be tabled any moment from now. So let's get it off. It doesn't stop anything. It's not a breach of the overall purpose of what we're doing. I think we should just.
I agree with Wilson. And language, Dr. Sam Amadi is an activist. That this thing is good for advocacy, but it's not for a provision. It's not for provision. It's not for amendment. It's not what should come in the. Maybe too when he did it, you had too many ideas. So I think this should go really. And the time, just like women, these people, because they look for opportunity not to also do the right thing. So please, we can deal with it now. Well done, Grace. I'm happy to see you.
So prick their ego.
Thank you very much.
So you expunge this place now. That's what it means.
Let's expunge it and move on. Damian, get rid of it. Let's move on.
Then let's also look at the sentence before the one that starts with hence.
Yeah, and the following sentence as well.
Okay, the legislative principle is that the legislation is a matter of pragmatism. It means that as much as the proposed amendments are reasonable, cost-effective, it's okay.
I'm talking of the paragraph before this.
I think it's okay. It's like trying to prick the ego of the legislators.
No, but Damian, expunge it. We are trying to. This is the process of ensuring a smooth, development advocate Ene has mentioned. You don't give them an opportunity to whittle down a very important process like this, where they see statements that may seem to be as strong as these are advocacy statements in some other areas. So if we expunge it, it won't take out the meaning from that particular paragraph, and we can proceed to get what we need to get. That part highlighted in red.
Dr. Jaja, you're a legal draftsman by your doctorate is on legal draftmanship. What do you think?
Well, we're spending time on what we call explanatory memorandum, not even the substance. So those things are guiding for the legislators. In a court of law, explanatory memorandum does not form part of the law. It's only to guide the judge. So if we spend so much time on that, what will we do when we get to the substance?
So do we get rid of it and move on?
Get rid of it, move on. It is the substance that the legislators will look at.
Let's go. Dr.
Please,
Daniel, is it your child that is making the noise on the background?
Yes, I'm on leave. I'm on leave.
Before we move on,
tell the
please.
child to move on to the room too.
Okay.
Core principles to guide proposals for amendment of the Electoral Act. Inclusiveness. The desirable reform should be one that promotes inclusion in all processes of elections. This inclusion must be comprehensive and couched in language of obligation. Enforceability. The language of the provisions that include protection for persons with disabilities must also be enforceable. This means that such provisions should be drafted in language that enforces enforceable obligation on INEC and its agents and privies.
Please, at that point, let me just say, in a language that imposes obligation, not enforces enforceable obligation. Imposes.
Imposes obligations.
Yes. Obligations. Obligations. The S should be in bracket.
Obligations on INEC and its agents and privies. Cost efficient.
Privies.
In stating those obligations and requirements of inclusion in the new electoral law, the committee ensured that it did not impose hard obligations beyond what it is required to achieve the strategic objective.
Beyond what is required. So delete the it, basically, beyond what is required to achieve the strategic objective. So delete it. What it? Yeah, thank you.
Is it is or it?
No, it's okay now. It's fine. Go ahead.
Sustainability. The obligations imposed by the new electoral law are such that can be sustained after the 2023 electoral cycle. Simplicity. These provisions are simple and concise. It did not create confusion and uncertainty. Omnibus provision. There is an omnibus provision in the proposed amendments to provide for contingencies that may not be foreseen at this point. An omnibus provision does not mean that it is not binding. It simply means a provision that provides wide-ranging concepts, facilities, and obligations that include persons with disabilities in different processes of election. Thus, even if it fails to provide for specific subject matter, the omnibus provision covers such subject matters. Proposed amendment section by section. Omnibus provision. The Commission shall ensure that persons with disabilities can effectively and fully exercise their right to vote and be voted for, and other rights necessary for meaningful participation in political and public life on an equal basis with others by doing the following. I, ensuring that voting venue, procedures, facilities, and materials are appropriate, accessible, and easy to understand and use. II, protecting the rights of persons with disabilities to vote by secret ballot in elections and public referendums without intimidation and undue difficulty by providing appropriate technologies. III, guaranteeing the free expression of the will of persons with disabilities as electors, and to this end, allowing assistance in voting by a person of their own choice. And IV, encouraging political parties to ensure that venues, process, and methodology for nominating and selecting candidates for elected positions must be accessible to persons with disabilities. Section 3, subsection 2 relates to the function of INEC. The community suggests amending section 3, subsection 2, subs D, to read foster the inclusion and enabling environment for participation for all, including persons with disabilities, in the electoral process. 6(1)B is also recommended for change. The committee recommends that it should read, such office shall be accessible to all, including persons with disabilities. Comment. The community proposed the amendment to the function of the INEC. It considers them as unnecessary reference to all persons, in bracket, or in quotes, includes persons with disabilities, in quote. In this circumstance, there is nothing special that additional reference to persons with disabilities adds in this particular context. It's conceptually tautology. Section 9(1). The issue here is that the section does not make specific reference to disability with regards to updating of election registers. Proposed amendment intends to include the mandate of INEC with respect to maintaining a register of voters with specific reference of disability. Mandates INEC to compile, maintain, and update on a continuous basis a national register of voters, which shall include the names and type of disability, where applicable, of all persons entitled to vote in any federal, state, or local government or electoral council elections. Section 10(3) has also
Please, so sorry, Damien. At the part where updating of the voter registry, should we talk about gender too there at that point?
It's a mandate.
So
Can I go on?
Go on. Go on, please.
Okay, the issue here is that the section does not make specific reference to disability with regards to updating of election registers. Proposed amendment intends to include the mandate of INEC with respect to maintaining a register of voters with specific reference of disability. Mandates INEC to compile, maintain, and update on a continuous basis a national register of voters, which shall include the names and type of disability, where applicable, of all persons entitled to vote in any federal, state, or local government or area council elections.
Yeah, so my point is, I'm asking if there will be need for us to add gender, name, type, disability, and gender. So with that also, we're also generating, in terms of increased participation of both men and women with disabilities, the data is generated, naturally as well.
Damien, the gender should come after the close bracket. Where applicable should remain with the disability, then and gender, I think, afterwards. Okay. Then I think on the section up there where we have with specific reference of disability, I think that should be 2. Just go up a bit, just before the provision. Go up, just the last line with specific reference on disability or to disability.
Yeah,
maintaining a register of voters with specific reference,
to disability.
It's just replace. Yes, specific reference on disability. Just down, take your cursor to the last. Yes.
Here.
Specific reference on disability. disability. Just replace. Yes, just before this disability. So replace the off with on. Okay, that's fine. I think we can continue since you've taken Grace's point as well.
Let me read it again so that to mandate INEC to compile, maintain, and update on a continuous basis a national register of voters, which shall include the names and type of disability where applicable, and gender of all persons entitled to vote in any federal, state, or local government or area council elections.
I'm wondering, shouldn't be demand for disaggregated data, different demographics within the disability community?
I can't hear
also the financial plan within. Okay, I didn't hear that. So that we have the different types of disability, and we will be able, INEC will be able to plan better. Imagine a situation where they didn't capture the number of albinos. So how will you get what do you call it, the magnifying lenses that is sufficient for the number of disability and community participation? I think we should demand for disaggregated data. It's not a difficult thing to do.
So Dr. Tonier, Dr. Jaja, how do you think that will fit in the comment from development advocate and in terms of disaggregated data?
Say that again, please.
Yes, development advocate Anna is asking, do we demand for disaggregated data of persons with disabilities within this particular reform process? Is there any way it can be placed there to make it a demand for the Electoral Commission to make it available beyond just maintaining and compiling it, to make same available? Can that be added to the clause or not? That's a question.
No, by implication, the Freedom of Information Act, any PWD can demand it from INEC.
Can we move ahead?
You can only available. It is when it's available.
Let's move ahead now. What we have here will help INEC to gather the data now.
You cannot demand for what does not exist. We've been doing that for a long time. Remember, I was advisor gender and inclusion, and we tried so much to have the disaggregated data for all the demographics within the marginalized group. We couldn't find it. So it will help INEC to plan, as well as for the National Assembly to budget for the data. It's important.
Okay. For us to move forward, I think the thing we can do will be then to, Damian, scroll down. The thing we can do here is to replace the phrase, no, you're going up. It's probably to replace, no, Damian, the same place we are. Come up a bit. Okay, so which shall include names, the names and types, or we can replace it to say which shall include disaggregated data of persons with disability where applicable. Is that okay? That will
Hello, Uncle Jake.
Yes.
We are mindful of the obligations we are imposing on INEC. We have said include data of the PWDs. Now, if you segregate it, to what effect? If at the polling unit, in a polling unit, if you have only one disabled person, and his data is not in that list, is in another, in the master list of only PWDs, will that be helpful or counteractive?
I think the question you're asking me is a little bit different from what we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve here is to place an obligation on the shoulders of INEC, which they have started doing, by supporting a number of organizations to embark on, collation and collection of data. As at now, Inclusive Friends are leading that process, So my question to my colleague is, if we leave it the way it is, we technically, for me, captures that sense of disaggregated data, or we become specific in asking for disaggregated data, because it's almost the same thing when we say which shall include names and types of disability. It's almost the same thing. But then if we want to be specific, because words are, especially in legal terms, words are equivocal. If we want to be specific, we can just drop it as it is. Otherwise, for time constraint, let's just make progress.
Section 10.3 has also been proposed to ensure that during voter registration, review and verifications, disability will remain a datable fact. The proposed amendment is as follows. Disability status and type of disability, where applicable, of every prospective voter shall be captured during the continuous voter registration process. Section 26.8 is a general provision to provide for effective management of environment and logistics of elections. The committee accepts the proposed amendment as follows. The environments and materials used for elections shall, as much as practicable, be acceptable to persons with disabilities and other kinds of impediments. Section 27.4.
Damien.
Yes.
Damien, I think if we use environment, it's okay, rather than environments with an S, just to delete the S. Environment, yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Section 27.4 relates to the mode of election result declaration. Here, the community is careful so that it can propose a feasible reform. The standard practice is to have a signed translator for such declaration. Afterwards, the results will be uploaded online and given to candidates, parties, and stakeholders. What form should this take? The concern should be to ensure that subsequently the result can be made available in the manner requested by any person who satisfied due process. The community believed it doesn't need to overburden the bureaucracy unnecessarily.
Okay, so I just have a question, Damien, before you go into recommendation.
Okay.
Just go up a bit, yeah. So this is just to colleagues here. The sign translator is okay than a sign language interpreter, right? It means the same and it doesn't have any other implication, right? It's just
For
a
me,
question.
I feel let's also add a sign language interpreter, sign language interpreting.
Okay, so it's to have a
I
sign
think
language
sign language interpreting is more
Okay. Okay, then okay, I think that's fine since we agree that then this issue of this satisfies the manner requested by any person who satisfies the concern should be to ensure that subsequently that results can be made available in the manner requested by any person who satisfies. So rather than satisfied, just to complete the sentence, who satisfies due process, that word, the due process seems to, okay, okay, let's leave it at that. Then the community believes due requirements, right? Okay, who satisfy due requirements? Let's use requirements then. Damien? So can we add all due requirements? Because the due requirements is a bit, so all due, who satisfies all due requirements, right? Then the community believes, not believed, believes because it's still continuous, believes it doesn't need to overburden the bureaucracy. Honest. Okay, then we continue. Go ahead. Thank you.
Recommended amendment. Sign language interpretation must be used simultaneously when final election results are being declared in different elections. Subsequently, the Commission should make results available in mode, means, and format of communication easily accessible to the person requesting results.
Damian, I saw where Barrister Lamy made a suggestion in the email, or I think was it in the WhatsApp working group, where he suggested that must should be replaced with shall due to the obligatory nature of that word, and shall is also imposing, but yes, so I think so. But of course, let others can make the comments, but I think generally in terms of the legal framework,
yeah, I think it's okay.
Right?
Shall is the language of the law.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. Go ahead.
Section 34 deals with how notice should be issued to voters. The proposed amendment is okay and it reads, all notices shall be in mode, means, and format of communication accessible to persons with disabilities. The recommended section 51 may provide a separate queue for persons with disabilities. This seems on the surface to be empowering in that it suggests recognition of the challenge of persons with disabilities and seems to mainstream them in the queue. But it has two great drawbacks. First, it can lead to segregation and victimization. Also, it can constitute a logistic challenge where there may be space and other constraints. It serves no great value in the context of a provision for protection of disability voting. There should be priority voting for persons with disability, physical disabilities. So can we maintain this physical or should we remove the physical?
Should it be for only physical disabilities that should enjoy priority voting?
That is the question. Should we remove this physical?
I think this physical should go.
I think physical should go as well. Let's just have for persons with disabilities in general.
Section 56 is one of the most important provisions of the electoral law. It deals with the most prominent aspect of inclusion. That is, it relates to the very heart of voting. The major recommendations go two ways. First is the recommendation that the description blind be removed and replaced with such non-derogatory work as visually impaired. Those who push this recommendation believe that describing someone as blind may be stigmatizing. The second aspect of the recommendation is that the obligation to allow for the assistance of persons with disabilities must be obligatory and binding, not exhortatory and discretional. The committee doesn't agree with the notion that the use of the word blind is derogatory or stigmatizing. This word is standard for those who have such disability in international domestic legal law, legal documents. Again, for the avoidance of doubt, the committee retains that word and adds other descriptions to capture other form of visual impairment. Recommended amendment. A voter who is blind or is otherwise unable to distinguish symbols or who have any other disability that can adversely affect the effective exercise of the right to vote shall be entitled to be accompanied into the polling unit by a person chosen by him, and the person shall, after informing the presiding officer of the disability, be permitted to accompany the voter into the voting compartment and assist the voter to make his mark in accordance with the procedure prescribed by the Commission. Section 56.2 makes this right of the person with disability to be assisted to effectively exercise his or her franchise obligatory on INEC. It also specifies in more details the support required for persons with disability. INEC has been providing some of these conventionally, but the amendment seeks to make the provision compulsory.
Excuse me, please. Hello?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Go ahead, sir.
What did we say about the use of him and her? Did we say we are going to leave it just as him to be interpreted? I thought we wanted to be in conformity with international standard, where when the word him appears, it also appears with her, him stroke her. Or we want to leave it just as a single word, not taking cognizance of the gender factor. Thank you.
Sorry, I would suggest we use him slash her.
Yes.
But I would suggest if they have their own
in the-
system. We too, we also have our own system.
I think him slash her, because gender neutral drafting is the trend. And if we cannot find an appropriate gender neutral term to fix, then the term he slash her is more appropriate. And I think we should go with that trend.
Him slash her.
No, Damian, what you had written is okay. It's just his slash her franchise. Yes. So it's already captured the his or her franchise obligatory on INEC. Okay.
So that means you have to go back and make corrections as appropriate.
Okay, Damian, I think let's finish this part, then we go back to make the his or her to the other sections. What do you,
okay.
Since you're almost done, yes.
Recommended amendments. The Commission shall take reasonable steps to ensure that voters with disabilities are assisted at the polling place by the provision of suitable means of communication, such as braille ballot guides, tactical voting system, magnifying glasses, election day written instructions, large embossed print or electronic devices, or sign language interpretation, or off-site voting in appropriate cases. Section 56.3 provides for priority vote. This is important to supplement
voting.
This is important to supplement section 56.1 and 2. The value is self-suggestive. Recommended amendment. All registered voters with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting upon arrival at their polling units with their permanent voter cards. Section 66 further improves the inclusion of voters with disabilities by providing for sign language and interpretation at collection and voting and counting centers. Recommended amendment. Sign language interpretation shall be
Damien.
Yes.
Hold on, please. Can you go back to the other provision? I think during some of our conversations at the legal drafting team, if you could recall, the priority voting. So that recommendation, all registered voters with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting upon arrival at their polling units with their permanent voters card. If you recall, when we were having the discussion, we had mentioned that where the commission eventually utilizes other forms of biometric authentication in the future, and we restrict the law to the use of the permanent voters card, and they are no longer available, it may impose a bit of a challenge or so. So we had said, of course, to find a way to structure it in such a way that we allow priority voting upon arrival and at their polling unit being authenticated with the appropriate means, so that and having satisfied the authentication or identification processes. Dr. Tonya and Barrister Danlami, if you recall this conversation the other time, so that where the permanent voters card is outlawed or changed or anything, this covers it, and we do not restrict.
Yes, that is correct.
So how do we couch it?
So to say upon arrival at their polling units,
Hello?
Okay, what if we add the term qualified?
Can you hear me?
Would it pose a problem? Like if we say all qualified voters with disabilities, will it cure that that's taking out the card at the end? But say all qualified voters with disabilities will be doing priority voting upon arrival at the. And so if it's the voter's card that qualifies one to vote and other factors, and if you have that, fine. And if it's whichever authentication that qualifies you to vote, then it takes. I don't know if that term qualified here can cure what you are trying to achieve.
yes, what we can do again, we can write all registered and duly accredited voters with disabilities. So that can cover it. And duly accredited voters with disabilities. So whatever form of accreditation that takes place, it would cover for it. Accredited voters. So you need to delete the voters after registered now, because you still left it there. All registered and duly accredited. So you delete the voters after registered. No, not that one, Damien. The one
here.
The first voters.
Hello? Hello?
Damien?
Yes, all registered and duly accredited voters.
Yes.
All registered and duly accredited voters with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting.
Yes, upon arrival at the polling unit, full stop.
But I think there's still a little problem with that because, yes, all registered voters, yes. But if you put duly accredited here, the process of accreditation, don't persons with disabilities deserve that priority too? Because sometimes you get accredited before you come back to vote and all of that. So if you say all registered and duly accredited voters, what happens at the process of the accreditation?
Voting is now simultaneous, voting and accreditation. So once you are registered, you are accredited, you immediately go to vote. So you don't go and come back. You immediately exercise that franchise. So it wouldn't constitute any issue. So once you have that priority, you are just accredited and you go to vote. It's simultaneous now.
So do we need to leave the duly accredited? Hello?
But the whole process starts from the time of accreditation. So the priority that a person with disability will be enjoying at the polling unit start from the time of the person, when the person is being accredited, then before the voting proper.
So why don't you just leave all registered voters with disabilities?
I think it's better that way.
Dr. Adebayo, we recognize you. Thank you for coming and being there all this time. I'm so sorry that we didn't blame it on my eyes, but Dr. Adebukola Bayo, we know the great work you are doing and the great contribution you're making to the community. We recognize you, sir.
Okay, so I think, Damien, just like the barrister Anlami, Dr. Tonya, they've suggested, the issue was the permanent voters card. That was why we brought in the accreditation. So if we take it out and want to leave it as all registered voters with disabilities shall be allowed priority vote, because that's the point is talking about the voting process, not the registration process. So the priority can be in both form, except if we want to talk about all persons with disabilities shall be allowed priority during the registration and voting processes. Then that will now sort the issue of priority at the process of registration and at the same time the process of voting. But this provision is talking about priority voting. So I don't know what we think about it, but these are just the points to consider.
Yeah, so perhaps I am not making the point I'm trying to make clearly. So if you say all duly accredited voters with disability will be given priority voting, even if accreditation and voting are simultaneously done, this sentence did not show that that priority is given at that stage where the accreditation is done. It seems like the priority comes after you've been duly accredited. I don't know if you get.
Okay.
That was the same point I was making now. That was the same point I was making. So it should be the whole process.
Okay,
the priority should be the whole process.
Okay, so should be given priority. Or why not? Why rather than voting, then all registered voters shall be allowed priority voting. Why not? But well, the entire process covers accreditation and voting. So should we take out the voting, or we leave it like that and we think it's fine?
Yeah, well, if we say all registered voters with disability shall be given priority voting, if we stop at this, are we missing anything?
Well, I don't know. You tell us. We can fine tune.
Accreditation is part of voting. It's part of it.
I think we're missing.
So
something.
leaving it at this I think it has covered the whole process.
Okay, so all persons with disabilities shall be allowed. Damian, don't take out the registered. You know that you have to be registered.
But I'm looking at, we are not looking at only registration, even during registration. Why not in all electoral process? Instead of saying during voting alone, why not all persons with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting and registration?
Yeah, but this provision has to do
Well,
with priority voting. So
Or
that's right.
to be on the safe side, do we just stop at priority so that whatever they are doing, the priority applies?
Yes, that's what I'm
All
looking at.
persons with
Priority
disability shall be
applies.
allowed priority or shall be given priority
but the
when
sentence
they
then is not complete.
Upon arrival at their polling units.
okay.
We can do that, but I think this section of the Electoral Act talks about priority voting. So if
Yeah.
we want to take out voting, it will still be implied in the sentence that you're talking about the recommendation, they're still talking about priority voting. So whether you take it out or not, but this point we're talking about all other processes, electoral processes, it's I think that should be covered by the omnibus provision that talks about, of course, giving priority to persons with disabilities throughout every aspect of the electoral process. So emphasizing this on E-Day, of course, we know the reason due to how our electoral process is, the timing it takes, and also the queuing process and all of that. So if we leave it at priority voting now, it will still be fine. Upon arrival at their polling units, I think it's still okay. So all registered, because you cannot be unregistered to participate at the process. So it's good that we leave the registered there, Damien. The contention was about the PVC, which may, if it changes in the nearest future, it may also impede on the work that has been done for this section. So all registered persons with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting upon arrival at their polling units, I think should suffice for this provision, except we feel strongly for other elements. But this section of the
I
Electoral
think
Act
that is fine
specifically.
too by me.
That's okay,
It's
Damian.
still not all persons, yes.
All registered persons with disabilities shall be allowed priority voting upon arrival at their polling units.
That's perfect. I think you can go ahead, Damien.
Recommended amendment. Silent interpretation shall be used simultaneously when final election results
Hello,
are
sir. Hello, sir. Before you proceed, there is this other provision after what section 66. After what we just did now, section 66 further improved the inclusion of voters with disabilities by providing sign language and interpretation. I think it should be by providing sign language interpretation at collection, but at collation and counting centers. Hello, sir, are you following?
And they should go.
Not just
Collation.
and there's collation, not
Collation.
collect.
Then sign language interpretation, not sign language and interpretation. Yeah.
I cannot stop but keep appreciating all of us on this call. You have shown yourself great advocates. Your patience since 10 o'clock, we've been on call. I just got a text from the EU ambassador apologizing that for some reason he didn't see the invitation on time. And I told him that everyone is here and he expresses his gratitude from the ambassador himself. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you so much. Let's continue and round up.
Recommended amendment. Sign language interpretation shall be used simultaneously when
Okay,
final.
go ahead, Damien. We're on the last.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. Recommended amendment. Sign language interpretation shall be used simultaneously when final election results are being declared in different elections. Subsequently, the commission should make, do we change this should or do we make it shall?
Shall make.
Shall.
Subsequently, the commission shall make results available in mode, means, and format of communication easily accessible to the person requesting results.
Change the commission to capital, the uppercase, the C. Okay, Jake, I think we've rounded up the section of this particular review. But before you take up, I see a comment in the group by just a second by Voke Igoroje, who wrote that she wanted to make input on a section on sign language to include all information in the polling area by the polling staff, that she was not being recognized. We didn't see your hand. Apologies, Voke. I don't know if you're still on with us. Voke. Okay, so I think we've gotten your point on the sign language interpretation. I think that was exhaustively dealt with. So Damien, if you have any other point, or we revert back to Jake for the final proceedings.
You can hear them. Very clear to Mammoth. Very clear to Mammoth.
Oh. I'm trying to mute whoever is. Okay, I think we have succeeded in doing that. I just want to thank everyone for your active participation in this exercise. I'm just grateful to all of you, especially the drafting committee that had worked on this document. We will finalize all the amendments. The ones we turned in red, we'll put in red, we'll turn them, and we will transmit this amended copy to everyone throughout the community today. And wait, if we don't get any further feedback, by Monday morning, we will then go ahead and transmit the document as approved by the entire community to the office of the DSP, with copies going to the chairman of CRPD, all members of the drafting committee, the European Union, ECES, and eventually some select embassies and NGOs, just to make sure that everybody is in the loop. With Damian, you want to say something? Yeah. All right. So with that said, I want to thank everyone and to also ensure you that we have taken time to record this event, both video and audio, and we can share it with everyone in the process, in the course of time. So with that said, I want to thank ECES, the European Union, the Office of the Deputy Senate President. You have shown yourself to be very inclusive. In spite of our inadequacies, the Chief of Staff was able to accommodate us. Thank you so much. Thank you. I cannot thank you all enough. Okay. Please, everyone who have attended, send us, reply the email by giving us your account details so that we will forward it to ECES. Anyone who have not received before, ECES will check their system and make sure that you receive the money for your data. I think for everyone who attended, there is a data allowance of 5,000 naira. So it will be send it. And Wilson is on this call. Wilson, please, I will also talk to Hamza that within a week or not more than a week that these funds, this payment would have been made. So I want to thank you so much. God bless you and have a good weekend. Barrister Dan Lamy, I know you had to leave your prayer time because of your passion for this process. We appreciate you. God bless you. Barrister Dan Lamy, can you close us with Muslim prayer?
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Almighty Allah, we thank thee for the process we have undertaken. We pray, Almighty Allah, that it will lead to a successful electoral bill that will enable persons with disabilities to participate fully in the election process. We thank thee for all those who have taken part. We thank you for the drafting team. And we pray, Almighty Allah, that you guide each and every one of us back to their various destinations. We ask this in the almighty name. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, Rahman Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Ihdina siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Amen.
Okay. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a swell weekend and expect the document now. Thank you.